complying under protest.
Sergeant First Class Michael Hayes, decorated veteran, Purple Heart. This is my name on this wall.
Could be fake.
Sergeant First Class Michael Hayes survived 2 tours in Iraq, a roadside bomb that killed 3 of his brothers, and a Purple Heart ceremony where the president himself shook his hand. But on a quiet Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m., he couldn't survive a traffic stop at his own war memorial. The body cam was rolling. Every word, every assumption, every violation. Before we continue, where are you watching this from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like this need to be told, and your support makes sure they reach the people who need to hear them. The Veterans Memorial sat on the edge of Riverside Park. Black granite panels arranged in a semicircle, each etched with names of soldiers who had served in foreign wars. 57 names total. Michael Hayes came to this memorial every Tuesday morning at dawn. He would stand at panel 14, row 7, and run his fingers across the engraved letters. His own name, Sergeant First Class Michael Hayes, listed among the fallen from the 2007 deployment to Fallujah. A clerical error after a roadside bomb that killed 3 men in his unit. For 6 weeks, his family thought he was dead. By the time the mistake was corrected, his name had already been carved into the memorial. The city offered to fix it. Hayes told them to leave it. He stood there now wearing a gray hoodie, dog tags beneath his shirt, Purple Heart pin inside his jacket. He touched the stone, remembering. The patrol car rolled into the parking lot at 6:51 a.m. Officer Ryan Mitchell activated his body cam as he exited. The camera captured everything. He approached Hayes from behind, hand resting near his weapon. Hayes turned slowly, hands visible. "Morning, officer," Hayes said calmly. "Can I ask what you're doing here?" "Visiting the memorial. Same as every week. Someone reported suspicious activity. I need to see identification." Hayes reached slowly for his wallet and handed over his license. Mitchell examined it, then looked at the memorial wall. "What's your interest in this memorial, Mr. Hayes?" "That's Sergeant Hayes. My name is on that wall." Mitchell looked at the wall, then back at Hayes. "This is a memorial for fallen soldiers. I know what it is. So you're either lying or disrespecting these soldiers." Hayes took a slow breath. "Officer, my name is actually on that wall. Clerical error during my deployment. They thought I was Kia. By the time they corrected it, my name had been engraved." "That's quite a story." "It's the truth. You can verify it." "I need you to step over to my vehicle." "On what grounds?" "Investigating potential vandalism and trespassing. This is a public park. The memorial is restricted before 8 a.m. Hayes looked around. "No signs. I've been coming here for 3 years. Never seen any restriction. I need you to comply. Walk to my patrol car." "Am I being detained?" Mitchell's hand moved closer to his weapon. "Don't make this difficult. I'm asking a legal question. Am I being detained?" 15 seconds of silence. Mitchell was processing. "Turn around." Hands on the wall. Hayes looked at the body cam. He spoke clearly. "For the record, I'm complying under protest. I've committed no crime. My name is Sergeant First Class Michael Hayes, decorated combat veteran. This memorial contains my name due to military clerical error. I'm not resisting." He placed his hands on the granite, right next to his engraved name. Mitchell patted him down roughly, pulled his wallet, dog tags, and found the Purple Heart pin. "What's this?" "A Purple Heart. Awarded for combat injuries." Mitchell examined it suspiciously. "A lot of people buy these online." Hayes closed his eyes. "You can verify my service." "We'll verify at the station." Mitchell pulled out handcuffs. The metal clicked around Hayes' wrists. "Do you think this officer knew he was making the biggest mistake of his career? Drop a comment below." Hayes sat in the patrol car, hands cuffed behind his back, while Mitchell ran checks. 7 minutes. 12. 15. The name came back clean. No warrants. No criminal record. Mitchell called his supervisor. Sergeant Linda Morrison answered at 7:14 a.m. "Mitchell, what do you have?" "Detained a subject at the Veterans Memorial." Claims to be a decorated soldier. Something feels off. What feels off? Mitchell hesitated. He doesn't fit the profile. Morrison paused. What profile, Ryan? He was wearing a hoodie, lurking around before opening. Someone reported suspicious activity. Did he commit a crime? Trespassing. The memorial isn't restricted. What's really going on? He claims his name is on the wall. Some clerical error. What's his name? Michael Hayes. Silence. Sergeant First Class Michael Hayes? Yeah. Ryan, release him immediately. Why? Because I know who he is. Purple Heart, Bronze Star, 2 tours Iraq. My husband served in his unit. His name is on that memorial because of a Kia reporting error. Everyone in the veteran community knows. If you've handcuffed him, you've created a disaster. Mitchell's stomach dropped. He's actually... Yes, get him out of those cuffs. Now. Mitchell walked back to his patrol car, his mind racing. The body cam recorded his return, the opening of the back door, the removal of the handcuffs. Hayes rubbed his wrists and stepped out of the vehicle, his expression unreadable. I apologize for the inconvenience, Mitchell said, his voice noticeably different now. There was some confusion. Hayes looked at him. Confusion about what? About the situation. The situation where I was visiting a memorial and you decided I was a criminal? Mitchell handed back the wallet, the dog tags, and the Purple Heart pin. His hands were shaking slightly. I was responding to a call about suspicious activity. And what about me looked suspicious? Be specific. Mitchell couldn't answer. The body cam recorded his silence. Hayes took his belongings and put them back in his pockets. I want your name and badge number. Sir, I really think we can. Your name and badge number. Now. Mitchell provided the information. Hayes pulled out his phone and photographed Mitchell's badge, then turned the camera toward the body cam on his chest. I'm also requesting a copy of your body cam footage from this encounter. That's your right. Hayes walked back to the memorial. He stood at panel 14, row 7, and placed his hand on his name one more time. Then he turned and walked to his car without another word. Mitchell stood there in the empty parking lot, watching him drive away, knowing he had just made a catastrophic mistake. The body cam footage was reviewed by Morrison later that morning. She watched the entire encounter, her expression growing darker with each passing minute. The assumptions, the disrespect, the refusal to believe a decorated veteran's own account of his service. She filed a formal incident report before lunch. Hayes didn't file a complaint immediately. He went home, called his wife, and told her what happened. She was furious. She wanted him to lawyer up immediately, sue the department, make them pay. But Hayes had learned something during his time in combat. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is patience. He waited 3 days. During those 3 days, he contacted the local veterans organization and told them what happened. He reached out to fellow soldiers from his unit. He gathered his service records, his DD-214, photographs from his deployment, medical records from his injuries, and the official Purple Heart citation signed by his commanding officer. Then he called the media. The story broke on Friday morning. Local news picked it up first, running a segment about a decorated veteran being handcuffed at his own memorial. They interviewed Hayes in his living room, his Purple Heart and Bronze Star displayed on the mantel behind him. He spoke calmly about the incident, letting the facts speak for themselves. By Friday afternoon, national news had the story. The body cam footage was released as part of public records requests. Millions of people watched Officer Ryan Mitchell handcuff a combat veteran at a war memorial while refusing to believe his service was real. The response was immediate and brutal. Veterans groups across the country condemned the incident. Active duty soldiers posted about it on social media. The hashtag #BelieveOurVeterans trended for 3 days straight. The police department held an emergency press conference. Chief Daniel Warren stood at the podium looking like a man who hadn't slept in days. He announced that Officer Mitchell had been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. He apologized to Hayes personally and to the veteran community as a whole. But the damage was done. The incident had exposed something deeper than one officer's mistake. It showed how assumptions based on appearance could override evidence, documentation, and truth. How someone's service and sacrifice could be dismissed because they didn't look the way people expected a veteran to look. Hayes finally filed his formal complaint 2 weeks after the incident. The complaint wasn't just about Mitchell. It was about a system that had allowed this to happen. About training failures that taught officers to see threats instead of citizens. About a culture that valued suspicion over respect. The internal investigation took 6 weeks. Investigators reviewed the body cam footage frame by frame. They interviewed Morrison, who confirmed that there were no restricted hours at the memorial. They pulled records of previous calls about suspicious activity in the park and found a pattern that made them uncomfortable. Multiple reports of black individuals being questioned for doing completely normal things. Jogging, bird watching, visiting memorials. The investigative report was damning. It found that Mitchell had no legal basis for the detention. There was no restricted area, no trespassing, no vandalism, just assumptions based on appearance and a refusal to accept evidence that contradicted those assumptions. Mitchell was terminated from the police department. His appeal was denied by the union after they reviewed the body cam footage. No other law enforcement agency in the region would hire him. His career in policing was over. But Hayes wanted more than just one officer's job. He wanted systemic change. Working with civil rights attorneys, he filed a federal lawsuit against the police department. The suit alleged a pattern of racial profiling and discrimination against black citizens, with his own case as the most visible example. The discovery process revealed what many in the community had suspected for years. Statistical analysis showed that black residents were stopped at rates far exceeding their percentage of the population. They were questioned more aggressively, detained more frequently, and treated with more suspicion, even when doing things white residents did without consequence. The department tried to settle quietly. They offered Hayes $150,000 to make the lawsuit go away. He refused. They came back with $400,000. He refused again. This wasn't about money. It was about accountability. The case went to trial 8 months after the incident at the memorial. The courtroom was packed with veterans, activists, and community members who had experienced similar treatment. Hayes testified for 2 full days, walking the jury through every moment of that Tuesday morning. The body cam footage was played multiple times, and each viewing made the injustice clearer. Expert witnesses testified about racial profiling, implicit bias, and how veteran status is often automatically assumed for white individuals but questioned for black individuals. The statistics were presented showing the disparate treatment of black citizens by the police department. The defense tried to argue that Mitchell was just following his training, responding to a call, doing his job. But they couldn't explain why that job included handcuffing a man who had committed no crime. They couldn't explain why Mitchell's first instinct was disbelief rather than respect. They couldn't explain the pattern. The jury deliberated for 11 hours across 2 days. When they returned, their verdict was clear. The police department had violated Hayes' civil rights through racial profiling and unlawful detention. They awarded him $2.8 million in damages. More importantly, the verdict included mandatory reforms, new training programs, civilian oversight, regular audits of stop-and-search data, real consequences for officers who engaged in discriminatory practices. Hayes donated half the settlement to organizations supporting veterans and civil rights. He used the rest to establish a foundation that provided legal assistance to veterans who faced discrimination. The foundation's first office opened across the street from the memorial where he'd been arrested. The Veterans Memorial itself became something different after the incident. The city added a plaque near the entrance, dedicated to all veterans regardless of race, recognizing that service and sacrifice come in every color. Hayes' name remained on panel 14, row 7, but now people knew the story behind it. They knew about the clerical error, about the arrest, about the fight for justice. Mitchell disappeared from public life. Last anyone heard, he was working in private security in another state, his law enforcement career permanently over. He never publicly apologized to Hayes. Some said he couldn't face what he'd done. Others said he still didn't understand why it was wrong. Hayes continued his Tuesday morning visits to the memorial. But now he wasn't alone. Other veterans joined him, standing in solidarity, touching those names on the wall, remembering the fallen and the sacrifices made. The memorial became a gathering place for those who understood that service comes in many forms, and that respect should never be conditional. The body cam footage is still available online. Millions of views, thousands of comments. People still watch it, still get angry, still can't believe what they're seeing. A decorated combat veteran, handcuffed at his own memorial, his service questioned, his dignity violated, all because someone looked at him and saw a threat instead of a hero. But the footage also shows something else. It shows Hayes' calm, his knowledge of his rights, his refusal to be provoked into anger that could be used against him, his strategic patience, his understanding that true justice takes time. 2 years after the incident, Hayes was invited to speak at a national police training conference about implicit bias and community relations. He stood at that podium in his dress uniform, his Purple Heart and Bronze Star on his chest, and told his story to hundreds of law enforcement officers. Some were uncomfortable, some were defensive, but most listened. He ended his speech with a challenge. Every time you approach someone, every time you make an assumption, every time you decide who looks like they belong and who doesn't, ask yourself one question. Would I do this to someone who looked like me? And if the answer is no, then don't do it at all. The memorial still stands in Riverside Park. Panel 14, row 7 still bears the name Sergeant First Class Michael Hayes. And every Tuesday morning at dawn, a man in a gray hoodie stands there with his hand on the cold granite, remembering who he was, who he is, and what he fought for. Not just on foreign soil against enemy combatants, but here at home, against the assumptions that say some Americans are more American than others, that some veterans are more veteran than others, that some heroes are more heroic than others. The body cam doesn't lie. It captured a truth that needed to be seen. Respect isn't earned by the color of your skin. It's earned by your actions, your sacrifice, your service. And on that Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m., the only person who failed to understand that was the one wearing the badge. If the story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it. These stories matter. These voices need to be heard. And accountability, when it finally arrives, needs to be witnessed by everyone. Thanks for watching.